Stock Up are some of the strongest cards in Standard. And I think that's a great point. Like, you're playing, you know, 3 of the top 10 cards in Standard, top 15. If you can fit some of those cards into one deck, that sounds like a good plan.
Yep, that sounds good. Here we have Lewis Martin's version of the archetype, a little bit more heavy on interaction, with 2 copies of Shock and Abrade, a Torch the Tower in addition to those Burst Lightnings, and this turn ain't big enough Thunder Trap Trainer, 3 of each. To, well, one thing that both of those cards are very good at is they're finding you a flurry of spells, both replacing themselves in a way, Thunder Trap, or this turn ain't big enough, even possibly triggering Prowess 3 times. If you have like 2 talents in play, you can bounce them both, get 3 different Prowess triggers that way to deal a lot of damage out of nowhere. And here we go, take a quick look at Lewis Martin's sideboard. We see the Royal Crackling Wit, a card that I really like. You guys have to -10 that ultimate. It's kind of like a Planeswalker that also has Prowess. Instead of getting 1+1, it gets a loyalty counter, really sweet game design. And yeah, he has a bunch of counter spells on his sideboard, split of those, couple Ghost Vacuums, of course, the most played card in this tournament, and then 2 Sunspine Links against Domain, 2 more copies of Abrade. The Abrades, I think we're gonna see them, I presume. That's why they're in the sideboard here, to fight the Mirror Match Cory Steelcutter. And Abrade is flexible enough. It's not, you know, you're not bringing a Shatter effect. You are bringing in a 2 damage deal free, so there should be a target at place.
Yeah, I mean, dealing with Cory Steelcutter also seems, yeah, reasonable.
Yeah, that might come up. I don't know. Why not just kill the Monk, though? Like, the Monk is true, that deals damage, right?
What about Ivan's list?
Yeah, Ivan...
more stock one?
Yeah, but not really. Like, honestly, I'm also a little confused, I guess you could say, or like, well, why 2 Monstrous Rage? Why only 3 Swift Spears? Certainly some interesting choices there. But besides those, very stock looking list, you know, bread and butter, similar to Yelko. He has those 2 Scorching Shots, which helped him secure his top 8 in the round 14 against Sheoldred. A huge addition to the sideboard for him there. He's going to be thankful for those. They're not going to be very good here. Here he might look also to board in 2 copies of Abrade. And maybe the Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce can be nice against this turn, big enough. Stock Up, Cory Steelcutter, not too bad. But yeah, they're sideboarding very little. They're sideboarding out usually into the Floodmore slot is the card that's not that great in the Mirror Match. And I think especially against Lewis Martin, who doesn't even threaten like a big Monstrous Raged up Slick Shot in the air into the Floodmore is really not useful for Ivan.
Okay, let's see how it all plays out. The players are ready to start game number 3 for the World slot. So Ivan on the play, and they both start on a land and pass. And Ivan doesn't even have the end of turn opt. That's interesting. Goes with a turn 2 Swift Spear. And that's gonna connect. Luis has an opt waiting to fire at the end of turn. I see double Monstrous Rage for Ivan in hand. Yeah, looks like he actually chose not to play the Swift Spear on the first turn.
He wants to protect it from shock.
To protect it from one of those, yeah, from one of those many shock effects. Ivan fires off that opt, untaps, plays land number 2. I see a Spell Pierce. This time ain't big enough. There is a Slate of Hand. I think he has a Pyroclasm.
Oh, really? I think that might be a shock.
Might have been a shock, okay. Back to Ivan we go. I think this might be the deck list that both players are allowed to look at before the game starts, or in between games. But when the game starts, it should be put away. So I think the judge was doing just that. Ivan plays land number 3, and let's see if he has a big turn. Does he have an extra creature? I think he has an opt, double Monstrous Rage.
I think it's 1 Rage, 1 Burst Lightning, 1 Rens Resolve, and 1 Cory Steelcutter.
Or a Steelcutter.
Look at it.
Yeah, that would be a good one here. But do you want to run it into a possible Spell Pierce?
That is the question. How aggressive do you want to play this? Boom.
Wow, he does run the Steelcutter into the Spell Pierce. So Luis gets rewarded for being patient.
Yeah, perhaps a little too aggressive from Ivan.
And Swift Spear attacks for 2 before the turn gets passed to Luis. So let's see if he has his own one here. Starts on a Slate of Hand. There's an Abrade as well. And that was a blue card. Looked like a stock up to me.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. I can see a stock up from 100 miles away.
Yeah, it's really one of the better cards in the matchup.
I could smell a stock up from... No, okay, well, let's stop there.
Oh wow, that is a 5th edition shock. I haven't seen that one in a while with the white borders. Ivan starts his turn with a Rent's Resolve, and I think he actually played a land before that to play around a second possible Spell Pierce. Finds an opt, fires the opt away, and picks up the top card. So let's see, what does he get? Swift Spear attacks for 3. No response from Luis there. Luis's hand is very reactive, but he does have the stock up. But Ivan has the Spell Pierce. Wow.
That was huge.
Luis
what
takes,
a swing.
Luis takes the opportunity to at least kill the Swift Spear, and he has shown a lot of patience, not interacted with the Swift Spear until Ivan was tapped out. So playing around all those monstrous rages certainly paid off. Ivan starts with an opt, likes the top card. And that's a stock up of his own. Look at that. He would like to find another creature. I think he found 2 copies of Sleight of Hand, so at least he can dig a little bit deeper into his deck. The question now is he going to play one of those Sleight of Hands, or is he going to value keeping up some mana?
Another stock up.
Another stock up, yeah, you'll love to see that.
Storm Chaser's talent at this point also becomes an incredible call. The game is dragging out. Luis Martinez looking at a reactive hand, can't deploy anything, can't get further traction on this game. Ivan resolving another stock up here.
Wow, yeah, I'm sliding the advantage bar heavily towards Ivan right now. Second copy of Rent's Resolve.
And picked up a Storm Chaser's talent.
A Storm Chaser's talent, that is exactly what he wants.
He's already won 1 game with the talent plus a bunch of spells, talent level 3. I don't think it's going to come down to that here, though.
7 non-land cards in hand, no big deal.
Yeah, he hasn't made a land drop yet, so he can start with the Rent's Resolve, but he also has to think about Spell Pierce, I suppose.
Yeah, given that Luis has not really been adding anything to the battlefield, I would certainly be thinking about Spell Pierce, being a card that could very likely be in his hand. But yeah, Ivan runs it out there. Storm Chaser's talent resolves, and he gets himself an Otter. And unfortunately for Luis, he draws another land.
Yeah, Ivan firmly in the driver's seat here.
So Rent's Resolve is the play from Ivan. Luis is going to respond with a Torch the Tower.
You could respond with Monstrous Rage here. I actually kind of like that. Get some usage out of that Rage.
Yeah, I think Luis also might be kind of baiting Ivan into playing the spells here, because he wouldn't really mind using the bounce spell.
Okay, he's keeping... I guess so, yeah. He's keeping around a Braid in his hand. He could have used that there to kill the Otter in response to the Rage. 2 islands. All right. Actually, Ivan doesn't even mind that. His hand is loaded.
Exactly. I don't think you're too unhappy about making additional land drops here, especially with that Storm Chaser's talent in play. He's going to play another card draw spell, Sleight of Hand. Puts one of those cards in his hand. And how big is the Otter now? There was a Rage, Resolve, there was a Sleight of Hand.
It's a 7/5. Trample. Pretty big. Now it is an 8/5. Yeah, if you're Luis, you are probably not feeling great about your opponent going through a ton of cards right now, taking a ton of game actions, and attacking you for 8 damage. I mean...
Yeah, Luis goes down to 6. And he's going to main phase that Braid now. Doesn't want to let Ivan untap with that full hand and risk dying. All right, Otter is dead. But Ivan has so much card draw and that talent also ready to pick up an extra card draw spell from the graveyard that I don't think he minds all that much. Is this finally the turn for a steel cutter? He has a swift spear.
Yeah, he also has that burst lightning, which he can kick now, and Louis down to 6 life.
Yeah. So it turns out the deck for the Izzet Prowess mirror is just play 8 stock-ups.
All right, he's going for it. So Luis can cast this town in big enough. But he can only cast 1 spell. Oh, he's going for the this town in big enough. And
there's a spell pierce. Wow, congratulations to Ivan Laushevich, the 2nd person who picks up a Worlds slot in this tournament. And he looks very calm, very collected. Yeah, no big deal. I'm going to play $1 million tournament. Just another day in the office.
Yeah, he's too cool for school.
Very, very cool. Yeah,
I was like, did you even read?
Was the deck to beat this weekend. Most popular deck, not by that much, but definitely most popular. On day 2, more of a gap towards the next most popular deck. 55% win rate on day 1. And here we see Jelko Prowess of Utrecht, the Netherlands. Coming in here, Jelko has had Pro Tour experience before, has played a few of them throughout his career, did a top 8 of GP Amsterdam in 2017, and then turned that into a top 16 at Pro Tour Amsterdam. His list is fairly stock, what you would expect of these Prowess decks. The main thing is that he has the card stock up 4 copies. And Ivan Laushevich from Serbia. I know I said... Yes, I know I said Slovenia, I know I said Croatia before. It is actually from Serbia. I am sorry, Ivan, but I hope you can forgive me because you are in the finals here. And Ivan's list is much more focused on card advantage, having only 2 copies of Monstrous Rage, only 3 copies of Burst Lightning, choosing instead to play Torch the Tower and Ren's Resolve, trying to position himself in this mirror match to be a bit more controlling, trying to trade cards, and then going up with those card advantage spells.
Love that. Both players starting. We see that Ivan has that Torch the Tower in hand. I mean, I have to say, Ivan here didn't even know he was going to top 80 at the interview with Maria, and he was like, oh, I was going home. I just top 8'd? Yeah, you did, and now you qualified for the World Championship. Sleight of hand here.
That's a fortunate position to be in. Can you imagine playing your last match? Because might as well. And then all of a sudden, you're actually looking into that World Championship qualification alongside a Pro Tour qualification for Pro Tour Edge of Eternities. This later half of 2025 for these players is going to be busy with travel, going to both Atlanta and Seattle.
That's right. So after that opt, we do have that sleight of hand. Now, Ivan looking at the top 2 cards of the library, put 1 in hand and the other one on the bottom. There's a Burst Lighting and another card there.
Yeah, that's a Corey Steel Cutter, one of the ultimate artworks of that card. Quite painful for Ivan here, having just the Shivan Reef as the... yeah, it seems like that was a one-lander indeed, because why would you ever play Shivan Reef turn 1 unless it's your only land, and that's exactly what's going on here. Jelko seeing the perfect time to resolve this stock up. Jelko of first seed, of course, also getting to go first as a result, and this is a huge... advantage for him in this position, getting to resolve a stock up while Ivan is still stuck on just 1 land. And see if he can draw that second land right here, and there it is. That is a blue-red Verge. It'll only tap for red mana at this moment, so if he wants to play another blue card, he has to take another damage from the Shivan Reef.
That's right, so Ivan now with 2 mana available, and there it is, the Corey Steel Cutter. Let's see what Jelko can do here to follow up.
So we've really seen, just in the last match we watched as well as previously, these Prowess players, especially in the mirror match, are positioning themselves to take it a bit slower, making sure to make the Burst Lightnings and Torch the Towers of the opponents as poor as possible, not giving them any good targets, saving your Prowess creatures until you can defend them. And here Jelko says, yeah, I'm just going to spend a little bit more time stocking up on cards and developing my mana base before I start playing my Prowess creatures, and making sure I can always respond with an instant to save them from anything that could go wrong.
Love that. I love stock up. Such a nice addition from Either Drift. Now we do have that land tapped and passing the turn. Let's see what Ivan can do with that Corey Steel Cutter already on the battlefield. Ren's Resolve. Let's exile that top 2 cards. Another Corey Steel Cutter and Sweep Spear.
Oh, and no land drop. So Ivan basically has to draw a land next turn. If he does, that is the second Steel Cutter. That is a Monastery Swift Spear, and that will immediately create a board for him. And there's no Steel Cutter on the side of Jelko. So if Ivan can find what he needs in another land here, that actually is a chance that he could build a board and come back, even though Jelko has been just loading up on cards.
Stocking up, going to the market, you know?
Exactly, yeah, just getting some fish. Here's another stock up. Is it really? Ah, Jelko thinking, maybe this is too much. But can you ever have enough stock up? You know,
Never.
You never know. Maybe,
Value.
You never know what could happen. Maybe it's nice to fill up that pantry and make sure you have all the things you need for the next 3 turns or so. Because you don't know. Maybe Ivan will prevent you from drawing any more cards in the next few turns, and then you might as well stock up while you can play around that Spell Pierce.
And let's see what Jelko here decides to do. This deck does have a lot of 1 and 2 drops, so a lot of options for the players. But there it is. Let's stock up once again.
There we go. That's what I like to see. I'm a control player now, by the way, so I like to see this.
I know, unfortunately, in Jeskai Control, he didn't quite make it in the top 8.
Oh,
but
it did.
still.
Look at this. What did Jelko just play? It's the only thing he's done this game is land go, land stock up, land stock up, land stock up.
Love to see it. I mean, stocking up, as you said, looking at the top 5 cards there, couple of options, taking a land here, and that can be Monstrous Rage, stock up again.
Yeah, getting a land with stock up is actually quite important. When you are spending all this mana drawing cards, it is quite important that you also hit your land drops to go along with them, and he's doing exactly that. Now putting that slick shot completely off the screen, very plotted, so far away we can't even see it. And no, that is another non-land drawn for Ivan here. His plan of trying to come back in this game has been foiled, and I think it's going to be quite difficult for him now to develop anything meaningful onto this board when he can't play this Steel Cutter and another spell alongside it.
I mean, and at this point, Jelko has been stocking up on those cards, and we know that this deck can have very explosive turns, especially with that Slick Shot show-off already plotted. Let's see what Ivan can do if he has to spend the turn playing the Core Steel Cutter here, not doing much, prepping for the next turns, but Jelko can just swing for a lot of damage next turn.
Exactly. I will note something. A lot of the Izzet players that have been played online and in this tournament weren't playing 4 copies of stock up. And the 2 Izzet lists we see in the finals, they have the thing in common, that they're both playing 4 stock ups. So honestly, I think that is the big takeaway for how you build your deck for your RCs coming up in the next few weeks. Play 4 copies of stock up.
So are you saying, Simon, that players have to stock up on the stock ups?
Okay, so I think we've hit the limit now. That's the 20th time we've said the word stock up in the past 5 minutes, and I think we have to have a timeout now.
Just said it again, Simon.
I know, that was the 21st time, and you cannot do it anymore.
Okay, I will mute the word for 100 seconds.
Yes, okay.
Okay, Storm Chase Talent here, making a little otter.
Right, exactly, yeah. And hopefully can follow this up with another spell to trigger that Core Steel Cutter, but doesn't even do that, deciding to just pass with red mana up to protect himself from that Slick Shot show-off. This makes a lot of sense, as that card could very easily kill you after Jelko has resolved all of these. And, and can now unload his hand, pumping up this this big flying bird to Unfathomable Power. And speaking of Unfathomable Power, here's 2 1-drops.
Okay, and now Sleight of Hand, third 1-drop of the turn.
Having haste in your Prowess creature is just so powerful. So Prowessful? Oh, and there's even a Monstrous Rage, so he can just safely go for that now, because these Swiss Spears are going to be out of range. I wonder if Ivan has a Spell Pierce or any way to protect himself. No, I think his hand is just 2 copies of... and maybe some other cards. It's 3 copies of...
Yep, 3 copies of the cards that does produce value.
That cannot be named. And a single Torch the Tower, which he can sacrifice his Storm Chaser's talent to deal 3 damage with that Torch the Tower. And these Swiss Spears are right now 2/3s. So if Jelko actually goes for the Monstrous Rage right here, Ivan can respond and kill them. So we see the patient here from Ivan. Doesn't need to go for anything right now. Might even just take the 6 damage here and say, do you have anything? And maybe Jelko is also fine to just pay this patiently. Not play a Monstrous Rage into an unnecessary thing. And I think Ivan is playing this right, using his life total here as a bit of a buffer, and finally found that 3rd land. It's not a Shaman Reef, though. It's quite painful.
Yeah, but he doesn't enter tapped, so those are the good news. Passing the turn here.
Right, his hand is 3 copies and a Spell Pierce and a Torch the Tower.
So keeping that mana up for Torch the Tower and potentially Spell Pierce. There's the Core Steel Cutter in Ivan's board as well, and there's the Slickshot Show-Off plotted on Jelko's side. Playing land here, 1 mana. What is it going to be? Are we going to opting to...
Might actually want to play out the Slick Shot at some point in this turn. Of course, Ivan can kill that with Torch the Tower, but then that Torch is not hitting any of these Swiss Spears. The fact that Ivan played this so carefully, though, must make Jelko pause and think there might be multiple copies of instant speed interaction here. So Jelko just decides to not lead with this Slick Shot, instead just doing opt first. Maybe could end up playing the Slick Shot later in this turn, depending on what happens. And here we see the Torch the Tower, 4-3 on that Swiss Spear. Can you save it somehow? You just need a single Monstrous Rage to keep this one alive. And Jelko is thinking now, do you want to run this Monstrous Rage into what is obviously another burn spell from Ivan? Ivan doesn't actually have that second burn spell, but it's what he's bluffing. And Jelko says, yes, it would be fine if you do it. And now Ivan knows that, yes, that is game over. Forget to save your Swiss Spear there. I have no more moves.
I mean, after you stock up 3 times, the odds that you win are very high. That's right, Simon. And I just want to say that we saw there in the end, not quite enough, but that bargain of the Torch the Tower has been coming in handy for a lot of players this tournament. Also with the Scry ability.
Yes, no, I mean, and in this deck where you can sacrifice, you have a ton of tokens that you can sacrifice. I mean, obviously these tokens are quite powerful because they are Prowess tokens. You also have the Storm Chaser's talent, which you don't always need in play. Sometimes you can even sacrifice your Core Steel Cutter, depending on the exact situation. For instance, if you're getting in for lethal as a result. And
we have the sideboard here, Simon. So do you think that Jelko is prepared for this mirror?
So Jelko's plan in this mirror is going to be bringing in these Torch the Towers and this Pyroclasm, I would assume. There's also the 2 copies of Screaming Nemesis. He did mention that he liked his setup into the mirror, so I think this is what he's trying to go for. I wonder if the Pyroclasms is just a thing you do on the draw or just a thing you do on the play. There's also the big question of how to approach the mirror match in regards to these Slick Shot show-offs. I think the level 1 is generally to board out the show-offs, so that you don't make your opponents Torch the Towers and Burst Lightnings too good. But when I was talking to Arne, who's walking by me right now with a nice tiramisu, when I talked to Arne about this, he actually mentioned that he doesn't like to board out the Slick Shot show-offs, especially on the draw, because the matchup is so fast that you just want to be able to have these big turns that can steal the game, such as plotting a Slick Shot show-off and coming back with that combined with Monstrous Rage. So I think it's possible that Jelko might subscribe to this strategy. Can't know for sure, but it seems like he's subscribing to this other strategy, which is to overload your deck with cheap removal and then using stock up to kind of outgrind your opponent. The issue for Jelko is that Ivan's deck is set up even better to do this, because Ivan has more 1-cost removal and has the Rent Resolves. At least in game 1, this is the case, where Ivan is set up much better for this. But maybe post-board, he can't quite... he has the same number of cards as Jelko does.
Simon, you were saying that you don't know if Jelko is going to subscribe to this strategy, but the people at home should definitely subscribe to the Fanfinity YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe so you can get all the new videos and live streams in the future. And thanks for everyone watching. Now, there it is, the sideboard from Ivan. You said better prepared. So exactly what are the answers here that Ivan has for this mirror?
Yeah, actually, Ivan is not better prepared.
Oh.
Because he doesn't have the Pyroclasm and he doesn't have the Screaming Nemesis. Now, I'm not sure if the Pyroclasms are even good in the matchup, because the players will tend to play in a way that's quite slow and always have resources up, to always have mana up to be able to play your instance. And it might make sense that the Pyroclasm can't actually find good targets for that reason, but I think the Screaming Nemesis are going to be quite good into this matchup. The card we do see here that I think is going to be good is the Spell Pierce, and maybe even the Negate to try and fight over these card draw spells, because I have a suspicion that this is how these players will position themselves in this matchup, boarding out the Slickshot Show-Offs and trying to arc-card each other, not trying to aggro rush each other down. And if you're going to slow roll your Monastery Swiss Spear to play around the Burst Lightning, well, if both players do this, the game actually slows down a lot and gives time to resolve all these card draw spells. And Ivan has the advantage of having 2 more card draw spells than Jelko does in these 2 Rends Resolve.
You know what, Simon? And a lot of people think that aggro matchups are very no-brain kind of games, but that's not true at all. We see so many intricacies.
When playtesting for this coverage gig, I played some matches with Izzet Prowess, and that's actually the deck I did the worst with because I kept misplaying, especially in the mirror. I lost 2 mirror matches where both times my opponent just played better than I did. And it does take some practice to think about how to position your spells. But all your spells are so cheap and so flexible, it actually is quite difficult to know exactly how to play. We see Ivan here leading with a Monastery Swiss Spear. Remember last match in the semifinals, he was not playing it turn 1, he was holding it. And so that this exact play could not happen. So I wonder what his reasoning is and how his hand is different. And I think it's different in a way that by doing this, you tap Jelko out so that Ivan gets to resolve a Core Steel Cutter for sure around a Spell Pierce.
Love to see that. And that Core Steel Cutter is now on the battlefield. Now we do have that Slick Shot.
Oh, that's exactly what I mentioned. Jelko recognizing that Ivan has more card advantage tools and decides to leave in the Slick Shot Show-Off to have a better shot at stealing the game here when he's on the draw. Exactly the Arne Huschenbeth style of strategy.
Ooh, but look at that. A double Core Steel Cutter, that sleight of hand. A lot of pressure.
That is a lot of pressure. 4 damage coming in right now, and these Steel Cutters threatening to create even more monks as the game goes along. Jelko knows you can't grind against this card, you just have to win. And this is what this Slickshot Show-Off is set up to do potentially. Of course, it's a bit tricky to do so against a deck that does have 7 1-mana burn spells, as Ivan's deck does here.
And Simon, I guess stocking up 3 times in a row is not going to work as well for Jelko this game around.
I would not recommend this course of action, especially since this is the game where Jelko doesn't have the 3rd land.
That's right. I mean, lands are important, and Jelko not getting access to the 3rd one is going to definitely limit him here in the game.
Question is, so you're probably going to have to cast a cantrip effect to try and look for that land. So the question is, do you play your Slickshot Show-Off before playing that cantrip? Or do you just hold it for a turn where it is better positioned and you don't just risk losing it to a shock effect on Ivan's turn? It is also always interesting with these cantrips. I've generally found in Magic over the past few years that whenever I'm stuck on lands, spending my mana to try and look for more lands tends to work out worse than if I just spent the mana I have to do board impacting things. Because if I do break off that cantrip, I lose the game for sure. Whereas if I just try to spend my mana, whoa, that is a Steel Cutter. Okay, Magic Lesson can wait. That's not what I'm talking about right now. We're just looking at all these Steel Cutters coming down, and here's a Torch the Tower in response to the Prowess trigger, trying to clear off one of these monks, and it does work. There's no instant from Ivan to save that, but
is there a second spell
here? Is that a Storm Chaser's Talon coming down, creating 3 more monks, and that is an attack for a massive 9 damage here, sawing through so many Prowess tokens in play. Jelko going to be down to 5 life, and the question is, can Jelko find a way to turn this into a win here? He does have that Slickshot Show-Off. He does have that Monastery Swiss Spear. There is only 1 blocker, and maybe with the help of a Monstrous Rage, you can make it into 20 damage turn. But no, Jelko is looking to chump block with that Swiss Spear, potentially hoping to top the game Pyroclasm.
Yeah, let's see if that happens there.
Oh, right, the Swiss Spear is a 2/3, of course, because of the Prowess trigger. So it did get to eat one of these Prowess tokens. But yeah, Jelko down to 6 now.
Sleight of hand.
And didn't play the slick shot show off, so he does not have the setup to deal lethal. I believe he had to have 2 Monstrous Rages and a Burst Lightning and another spell in order to do this. So yeah, not very likely to happen.
Definitely not opting here that Core Steel Cutter is not going to cut it right now. And drawing a land.
Yeah, and it's still not going to cut it.
Just passing into this incredible board.
Yeah, both of these games we watched, they've just been blowouts. There hasn't actually been much of this, you know, difficult to play, positioning, tricky stuff of playing this blue-red deck. It has just been one player completely running over the other.
Where is the otter? Did he get removed?
No. I don't know where the otter is. Maybe it's off screen. Maybe the trigger got missed. Do you notice there's no counter on the Storm Chaser's talent? It actually is player's responsibility to remember these triggers. And yeah,
that's a scoop here.
Even though there's no otter, anyways, there's still 3 more Monk tokens being produced. Drawing multiple copies of the Steel Cutter together is just massive.
No otter, but we will have another game.
We will have another game.
So let's get a look here at our players' lists and sideboards once again. Now, Ivan was really good this game, I feel, at taking that aggressor role from that turn 1 Swiss Spear. So just showing how important it is for you to understand what's your role and to keep playing into it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, watch this game and watch Ivan's semifinals and analyze why he's playing differently in the 2 different spots. Both times he's on the play, both times he has a Swift Spear in his opening hand. One game he decides to play turn 1 and offers it up to a Torch the Tower. The other game he decides to hold it until turn 2 so he can protect it from a Torch the Tower. And understanding the cases where you do one play versus the other is extremely important for leveling up your game. There's no such thing as a heuristic in Magic where, oh, you always play turn 1 or you always hold it. You need to understand the reasons why you do one thing or another, so when you're in your own game, you can more accurately make these decisions. Magic isn't over.
That is right. We are going to have a game 3, and this is going to be the last game of the tournament.
It will be.
Oh, wow. Time passes by so fast. We had over 1,000 players here yesterday, and we are down to our finalists. I have to say, Simon, it has been a pleasure to be here all weekend long casting with you, Arne and Martin as well, Maria with the interviews, Frank with the meta-analysis, and I have to thank everyone at home watching. I hope you've been enjoying the show. Let's all watch together this last game, and let's make it count. Make sure you have the energy so we can root for the champion here of the regional championship. A lot of emotions at stake. Ivan, that previous magical accomplishments said nothing to brag about and a sad face.
Sad.
Maybe this already changed for sure with that World Championship invite. On the other side, we have Yelko that already had a Pro Tour top 16 and a GP top 8, so an experienced player here in the competitive scene. The winner will take that amazing trophy that we see there, giant water drop.
Exactly, yeah. And it's a kind of a, no, I think it's quite apt for the water drop going to one of these 2 blue deck players.
That's true. And who is it going to be?
Have you noticed that also the last RC we covered was won by a blue deck?
Oh.
Getting that fitting trophy. I think maybe there's something to that.
Blue equals good. Are you saying that because you are a new-found control player?
No! Yes.
Okay, let's take a look here at the opening ends of the last game of the regional championships in Bologna. Players are ready.
Wherever you are around the world, where you're sitting, chant Monk, 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 Monk. And we will feel your energy. And hopefully the people in the room with you will not be too disturbed.
Let's hope not. And things are ready here for our players. They are the ones wanting to make as many monks as possible. It's a monk battle.
And we see there in the corner, thanks so much to our sponsors, Beckett and Ultimate Guard, their logos showing up there and telling us that they help us make this show and this production happen for you guys. So big cheer.
That's right.
For those. And here we see Yelko passing on turn 1, resolving an opt here. Ivan, again, playing out his 1-drop now. Not too scared of getting it hit by a shock effect. Of course, it's much more difficult to stop an otter from getting hit. And I think it might be a sign that he has a Core Steel Cutter again. No, that's not the case this time around.
Okay, putting the card on the bottom, drawing a land, drawing another land here. So a couple of lands for Jelko. And I cannot quite see what the hand here is, but there is definitely 2 Monstrous Rage, 1 Slick Shot Show Off, so...
And a Swiss Spear.
Yeah, so let's start then with that Swiss Spear and start attacking. 1 damage, but before that, there's a Monstrous Rage.
Yeah, just turning this hand into pure damage. If you hold on to these Monstrous Rages without trying to find a better spot where you can utilize the Trample, you might walk into Ivan's 1-cost removal. I actually think Ivan also has a Cory Steel Cutter, and he also has his own Monstrous Rage as well as 2 Sleight of Hand. And I think that's a Rent Resolve. So Ivan's hand quite full of good cards here, but doesn't play an untapped land here. Could have just played a Cory Steel Cutter on this turn, but decides to wait a bit despite not having any removal spells. And I think the issue is that if he just taps out for a Cory Steel Cutter, he might be in for a World of Hurt, as Jelko can play yet another, maybe Hasty Prowess creature and another Monstrous Rage. So Ivan's life total under pressure at the moment. Let's see how he decides to deal with this. I wonder if he's going to block with the Otter Token and use Monstrous Rage on defense. It's quite a desperate move. Probably not worth doing. Maybe he can take a bit more damage and set up. Try and find that 1-mana removal spell to be able to have a little bit more leverage in this situation.
It looks like a Sleight of Hand here, revealing a Mounted and a Swiss Spear, and Ivan deciding to take that Swiss Spear, attacking with the Otter. And Jelko down to 16 lives, so let's see what Jelko can do.
I wonder if we're just going... Is there a Slick Shot in hand?
3 mana.
Oh, it's a Screaming Nemesis. Right.
Going just for 5 damage.
This is a mono red aggro draw.
There he
is.
is.
It's Swiss Spear plus Monstrous Rage and into Screaming Nemesis. That is 10 damage being dealt to Ivan. Right now, his life total is halved, and there's the Screaming Nemesis, which is so tough to deal with for these red decks.
That's true. I mean, unless you have something like Into the Flood mod to delay things.
Yeah, but even against the haste creature, it's not that good of an answer.
That's true. 2 mana here, so we are going to see Ivan going for that.
And if Ivan taps out here, which he might have to do, tapping out for the Steel Cutter plus another spell, then this Monstrous Rage can land on this Screaming Nemesis, providing even more damage. That'll be 9 Tremble damage coming in next turn, making it so difficult for Ivan to stabilize.
And Ivan is seeing the writing on the wall. Things are not easy with Jelko commanding this game, being the aggressor. And
look at how different this game is from the last one we saw in the semifinals, where it was just stock-ups battling on both sides, one player running out of cards, there was Storm Chaser's talents being activated. Understanding that this matchup can go 2 different ways is extremely important, and being flexible enough in how you play so you can lean into one or the other as the situation demands.
That's right. So we see here Ivan pausing to make that decision. Spend 2 mana for that Cory Steel Cutter, and now needs to follow up with something if he wants to make a Monk.
Yes. Might just have to play out this Monstrous Swiss Spear just to have more bodies on board and potentially set up some risky double blocks. It's not a very convenient situation to be in. There's also the question of, do you even attack at all? This is an attack for 5, so you could do that, but you're not really winning the race unless Jelko's hand is just quite bad. But maybe this is what you have to hope for, that Jelko's hand is just no good cards, as that's the only way you can turn this into a win. You do have a lot of spells to play next turn, 2 Sleight of Hand and a Monstrous Rage. So if you get to deal a little bit of damage here, you might be able to finish the game next turn. That's what Ivan says. I hope you are flooding out right here. I hope your hand is stuck up and nothing else, because then maybe I can survive. There's a second Swiss Spear.
Okay,
you play the Swiss Spear, you play the Monstrous Rage, you play the Opt, and this is lethal damage. Jelko Prowess of the Netherlands. Top 16 the Pro Tour 8 years ago, comes back here into the finals of the RC here
with that
in Bologna, takes it down with Izzet Prowess, the deck of the tournament. Congrats to Jelko.
Congrats, Simon.